What is up? My name is Yael, and with me today is one of my good friends, Cop Cop.
Hello, everybody. Hi.
We are hanging out today to talk about the MCU. Steven and I already talked about some of these movies and these shows, but we wanted to do a recap for the end of the year and bring you all in so we can talk about everything that happened, all the ups and downs of this phase, and what are our hopes for Phase 5. During COVID, we missed the MCU after I think it was Spider-Man the last thing that we saw. No Way Home, or sorry, No Way
Yeah.
Home is the last one. Spider-Man Far From Home.
Far from home finished that phase. Yeah.
Yes, so Far From Home finished Phase 3, and we had no content because of COVID until WandaVision. And then WandaVision came, and it was like everybody was going crazy. Every week were theories and speculations, and everybody had their ideas of how big this is gonna be. I'm
Yeah.
wondering, I'm
One.
wondering, like when that started, and everybody had such big ideas of how much it's gonna connect, how much the TV shows are gonna connect to the bigger MCU movie platform and stuff like that, movies and all of that. What were you thinking? Did you watch WandaVision week to week with everybody else, or did you watch it later?
No, I definitely watched it week to week. I think that what they did was very smart because they started off with what they knew was going to be a good show. Like they started it off with a solid concept and a well executed piece of television.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and then I think for me, just to keep it high level, is that it's great to get the fans theorizing immediately, but then we sort of started to trend downward.
Yeah.
And like I think for me, when I look back at all of Phase 4, I think we can cut a lot of this content out here and really could have streamlined a narrative that would have made this a lot cleaner. Because I think even now, with the end of with Black Panther and the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, there's
Mm-hmm.
still too many questions than answers. And I to me, Phase 4 feels like that awkward teenage years where it's like, I'm a teenager, I know who I am, and I'm never gonna change, and I'm so good at everything, and it's like, and then everybody's looking at it going, that's not true, but we can't convince you otherwise. I think they came out of Phase 3 feeling so confident in everything, and it just didn't connect the dots fast enough for the audience's attention base to stay engaged, you know?
So you don't agree with the idea that Phase 4 is about grieving? Is about grief? Is the stages of grief and going through it?
I'm not saying anything about the metaphorical context of it. I think, like, sure, you can have your metaphors and your themes, but half of this stuff did not move the needle,
Mm,
right?
true.
And when you're talking about asking viewers to maintain hours and hours and hours of attention to the content you're putting out,
Okay.
you have to deliver it to them in a way that keeps them engaged. But there's a few of these things here that I was like, I don't need this. This doesn't move the needle forward in the journey of the MCU. Like, and any moment that you have that's a pause is a moment where people go, you know,
So
this is a 10 episode arc of a TV show that's 10 hours of my life. You know,
so
like
you would have liked for all of this to be connected. Do you so stuff like Werewolf by Night or Moon Knight or stuff like that were did you not enjoy because they were completely unrelated to what's going on?
yeah, when I look at this list, I don't think Falcon and Winter Soldier should have been a TV show. I think it should have been a movie, a buddy
Mm-hmm.
cop movie, easy, because they also had to change the script that they were writing due to the pandemic. So therefore you presented a half muddied concept and villain. And instead what we wanted Falcon taking up the Captain America mantle, and I did enjoy the Winter Soldier's parallel to addiction and recovery through his like issues and things that he's dealt with. That's great. That could have been an hour and a half. Easy. Easy movie. Done. I think
100%.
Loki was brilliant. I think Black Widow is like great to honor her, but it's way too late. Black Widow should have been phases ago. Phases ago. None of Black Widow moved the narrative forward in the MCU.
Okay.
It just didn't. So I love What If. I think What If is a
Just going through all of it?
Yeah, I mean, like a super high level.
Okay.
Like I think What If is great. What else did I not need here? I don't need Eternals unless you're gonna connect it for me. It was a beautiful film. I don't need Moon Knight. And I don't need Thor, Love and Thunder, frankly. I didn't watch Werewolf by Night. I watched everything else on this list but Werewolf by Night, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like, to me, you can cut at least a third of these things.
And do you want to talk rankings? I know, guys, you can check my ranking for the shows. We did a ranking with, it's Chris Ricks. It's on YouTube, on my YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I have the rankings for the shows at that moment in time. I think my ranking will change every time you will ask me what my rankings are. But for that moment, that was my rankings. And I do have my top two, I think will always be my top two, at least for this phase. WandaVision #1 and Loki #2. And I know other people have it flipped. The experience of WandaVision after everything that we've been through and going through that roller coaster of a show, that is really like, it put a lot of it gave me a lot of enjoyment during the week to week. So
I'm shocked you're not adding Spider-Man into that.
I said shows.
Shocked.
It says shows specifically.
Oh, shows.
Specifically shows.
Mm.
Yeah, specifically shows. My shows ranking is in YouTube if you want to see the whole conversation about it and how Chris and I don't agree on the top 10. But okay, Steven, so we talked about overview. What was not good? What could you do without, or what could have been a movie? But overview, just for starts, high points of this phase. Like, what are like 2-3 high points of this phase for you?
I think for me, high points are the moments where we introduce and connect Kang. Super important.
Mm-hmm.
I think the introduction of and the deep dive of the multiverse, absolutely important because of Kang.
Okay.
Right? We need that canonically. I think the way that we're moving into the concept of mutation, very important. Even though there's like, people agree or disagree how we're basically taking the Inhuman concept and the X-Men mutant concept and we're Frankensteining them together. But at the same time, those are the people who are arguing that it's a terrible idea because they canonically already understand it. If you ask the average person on the street to tell me the difference between an Inhuman and a mutant, they can't. So to get the mass audience on board with this concept, they were like, we're just going to put them together. They're basically the same thing. And it's like, basically. I think those three things are super important to get us where we need to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've shared this before. I think personally, this is the first phase where we actually start to introduce the Young Avengers. We are sprinkling Young Avengers through this entire phase.
And
I'm
every
super
project.
Excited. Well, not every project.
Almost.
I'm super excited about it though, because that is the way to get a new generation excited in the Marvel Universe, is to show them characters of their age level saving the world. I mean, like, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to basically reignite an entire generation by introducing Young Avengers, and I get it, because I was in undergrad when the first Avengers came out, so,
Yeah. Okay. So, did you go see any of these movies in the theater? I'm curious because it seems like a lot of people have stopped going to the theater since COVID, and I don't know if people have gone back, or like now the short period of time that you need to wait between it coming out in the theaters and it being available on Disney Plus is so much shorter than when we were kids and had to wait for the DVD to get to Blockbuster to get like the movie. I'm wondering if it changes the experience of the moviegoers. And I watch a lot of YouTubers, a lot of critics, and there has been a shift. There's like less people going to the movies, and And
Yeah,
I'm wondering.
I, I don't think that's Marvel's fault at all.
Of course
I
not.
think
Yeah.
that's a cultural shift. That's a cultural shift,
Mm-hmm.
It's also a financial shift. It doesn't People don't see the necessity of paying $20 to $30 for that experience when they can pay $5 in the comfort of their own home.
Of course. Yeah.
But I did not see I saw Black Widow at home. I rented it.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Shang-Chi in theaters. I saw Eternals at home. I rented that. Spider-Man No Way Home I saw 3 times in theaters. Uh
As you can see, guys,
Thor,
Tom is right behind Steven over
yeah,
there.
I saw Thor in theaters. And I saw Black Panther in theaters.
Okay.
And really, Black Widow and Eternals were still like we were in that pandemic period. It felt weird to see a movie in a theater, and when I saw Shang-Chi, I had to wear my mask the whole time, and I was like, I'm uncomfortable,
Yeah.
So it really wasn't until after we got past that phase of the pandemic and the mask wearing that I was like, okay, I want to have that experience. I love going to a theater. I love popcorn and soda in a dark, air conditioned room. It's my favorite. It's like so comfy to me.
Yes.
So I did eventually start going back, but yeah. I think for me, high level, I also want to highlight that like what they did very well in this phase is also like diverse casting and diverse cultures,
Mm-hmm.
which was super important because the first 3 phases here, the first arc, it was really sort of like, we've got Wakanda, and it's like, great. Okay, yeah, all right, like that's the thing that we're writing. But here it was like, we got into like between Shang-Chi, I think Eternals was also a beautiful representation of multiple cultures.
Mm-hmm.
Moon Knight with the dive into Egyptian mythology. Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel is such a beautiful
I loved it.
expression of culture. I was obsessed with it. Yeah, and then we go back to I was like, this is better. This is good because we need to be representing not only the cultures of Earth, but we are dealing with a universe. There has to be such a diverse representation here. So
100%. I'm gonna be kind of a devil advocate for this and ask you if you feel like that has also hurt the MCU because of what misogyny and the white sass whatever. I don't know. I don't know the right terminology, but like that side of like geek fandom, comic fandom, that is very conservative and very want to keep to their geeky selves. That even when I go to Magic events, sometimes people look at me weird because I'm not what they expect of a Magic player or an MCU
yeah,
fan.
I think that audience. eh, hmm, I think that audience can't be served, right? Like they the people who are vocal in that way are exposing their own bigotry and their own vocality. There was a beautiful TikTok where this guy created a graph basically,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "This is a spreadsheet that was like this spreadsheet is tracking, ticket sales, gross income, all of this stuff, and also a general voice and tone of popularity per film and TV show for all of Phase 4." And he was able to take all that data and siphon it down and say, the 3 films that did not do well and that people talk about hating are the 3 films that are either a woman lead or a cast of color. You are showing your own bigotry in your own vocality. And that's just data.
Yeah.
That is not opinion. That is pure data. And so I think it's like there's nothing to be done about that, right? Like those people can't that opinion can't be pleased. Because if you also look at the quantity and scale and ratio to those 2 things, it's not like they're not serving that community with 75% of the rest of this content. So what do you want? Like, if you're not seeing yourself represented on screen, I'm sorry? Should like
I agree
like
with you. I enjoyed the cultures that I did know and like getting more of a diverse characters and like I really enjoyed that in this phase. I really enjoyed learning about Miss Marvel and everything. I enjoyed learning about um Shang-Chi and that side of things. Even Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. We went back to Wakanda, which we know, but we also got to learn about people who live underwater, and that like kind of a
An entire deep dive into a Mesoamerican culture,
exactly.
like, and also the funeral rites of that entire nation, like, huge. And also, I'm a gay man. Have I seen a gay representation in the MCU? No. Am I up in arms about it? No. Like,
They tried to just put it there like as like a topping, just to say we did it. There are gay characters in the MCU.
sure.
That's how people see it. People see that they just put it there just to say we did it. They're not really actually do it justice, basically.
Yeah.
Let us know what are your highlights of this phase. We want to know from you. Like for me, there's a lot of highs and a lot of lows. The fact that I loved Miss Marvel doesn't take from the fact that I didn't enjoy the villain in Miss Marvel. I think they could have done better with like that side of the story. But I loved the show. I'm one of those who loved She-Hulk with everything that happened there, all the craziness. I enjoyed it. I don't know if it's not my favorite, but I did enjoy it. I think it had just fun to it. It was a different side of Marvel. They brought us something different, and I think the cast is one. It won me over. I think was the best thing about that show. But there's also like Thor: Love and Thunder. There was too many jokes, and it should have been a little more serious, a little more focused on actually killing gods. Sorry guys, we're going into spoiler territory. Just letting you know if you're not caught up, and you don't want spoilers. Until now, we just talked kind of like a very overview of everything. Revelia is saying was quite fond of She-Hulk. I agree. I think it was charming. It was fun.
Yeah, you don't like She-Hulk isn't meant to be taken seriously.
Exactly.
And it's like it's setting itself up for an entire concept of this world, which is that like superheroes need lawyers. Like if we can look at Civil War and accept Civil War for its geopolitical dealings, we can accept She-Hulk for its need for this entire aspect of this world, you know?
Yeah, and I see here people in chat agree about what's going on with the new generation that we talked about that is coming with the Young Avengers, and that Thor has progressively gotten worse and worse. Buzz is saying, "Are you sure?" I'm pretty sure Thor 2 is the worst Thor ever. At least that's what people say.
Ragnarok? Really?
No, Thor 2, not Ragnarok.
Oh,
Ragnarok
yeah,
is
yeah,
3.
yeah, yeah. 3, yeah. I agree on Love and Thunder in that again, like that's a moment where it's like this has no stakes to it.
Yeah.
Because yes, I was actually hoping that Christian Bale's character did kill all the gods because that would have connected Thor to Moon Knight.
Exactly. Yes.
And it didn't. And it's like, okay, what you've given me is a highly generic superhero narrative. The only reason this thing exists is for you to bring Natalie Portman back and for you to also give Thor a child? Sure. If we're building towards Young Avengers, sure. But there's a better way to have. That's ironically, like, part of me is like, could Thor have been a miniseries? Like, we don't need all of the pieces of Thor: Love and Thunder, you know?
There is a world that Thor: Love and Thunder would have been different if they gave more and they put more emphasis on god slaying than on sword and hammer fighting for attention. Okay, like 100%, and less goats too. That would have been nice.
Yeah,
like
I was like, man, we're riding this goat joke as far as we can go. Like, it's still here. We're still making the goat joke.
Revelia is saying it exactly the right way for me. I think Love and Thunder had way too much mood whiplash. I agree completely. That's how I feel about it. It was like all the time we go back and forth between cancer and weapons being jealous or goats or something. And it was jarring. I agree. I 100% agree. And like I feel like a lot of this phase was like that. A lot of the phase was all over the place. One thing that I wanted to say about Moon Knight is that the small thing that they gave us to connect it to some other content in the Marvel universe is the connection to Black Panther and the 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 place that they go when they are covered when they become Black Panther and they go to see their ancestors, right? In Black Panther.
Mm-hmm.
They mentioned that in Moon Knight when Moon Knight went to the world, to the life after, or like the limbo or whatever you want to call it. They mentioned it and said that every culture represents the afterlife in their own way, and that they said the name, I forgot the name. That is,
Yeah.
you see, guys, I brought an expert because I only watched the MCU. I don't follow the comics very much, but I brought an expert here.
Sure, but that's not enough, right? Like, that's not enough to ask me to watch a 12 episode series. Like, to give me that one moment is not enough.
But
and
is there a way?
Well, that's the way that you do it, right? You have these things lead to an actual impact that changes the universe. Otherwise, it's just fluff. Like, and canonically, Moon Knight is, if we're going to Secret War, if we're going to Young Avenger, Moon Knight has very little connection here. And so it's like, why are we doing this besides you wanting to do sort of a psychological take on a superhero with this actor who you clearly want to cast in this role? And it's not that he didn't act it well. I thought he did the whole show fucking beautifully. The like art direction and the cinematography of that show was absolutely beautiful. But at the end of the day, I was like, okay, great, that was fun. Also, Burner, I will say, Taika Waititi did both Ragnarok and Thor: Love and Thunder, so same director doing the same film with the same jokes is exactly what that was.
Yeah, I agree completely about what's going on, and like, but I'm wondering if there's any world now that there's so much content and MCU is putting way too many shows and movies out each year. Is there a world that not everything is connected, that you can enjoy Moon Knight for Moon Knight if it was done in a way that said, okay, this is beginning to end, this is the story, this is a corner of this universe, and maybe in the future you will see him pop up somewhere, but this is the story we're telling. We're not connecting it right now. Or do you want everything to be connected? At least in a little bit.
I don't think it's about what I want. I think it's about expectation of the multi-million dollars in viewership, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, my producer brain jumps to the board members and executives and executive producers who are having to make these decisions.
Okay.
And I think when you say, well, we're going to make something to make something, okay, that's millions of dollars being thrown into a piece of content that is not going to be reviewed or accepted positively or well. And Kevin's already made this announcement. We're like, hey, we hear you. There was too much stuff in Phase 4. We're changing our lineup for Phase 5 and 6. Like, they've heard the feedback and they're going to make the changes. But guess what? That feedback is also coming from investors and board of directors saying, you wasted our money. Like, we can't not deny that there's two sides to the coin. There's the fan base and what we want and what we're asking for and what we're willing to pay dollars for and what we're willing to pay attention for. And our attention is a quantitative dollar amount, unfortunately. And also where the money is coming from and what the investors and board of directors are and executive producers are paying to do as well.
And it's not just Marvel. I know this is a Marvel talk mostly, but apparently also people complain that Disney and Pixar, their qualities has gone down. There's too many movies, too many things.
The connection through all of those things is a cultural shift. And, you know, the kind of asking of corporations and entities like this to read the room, right? Like, a year or 2 years ago, when the economy was better, yes, people thought that, like, oh, we're going to flood we're going to make all this money from all of this stuff that people want. And it's like, But now we're in a different place,
Hmm.
and people's money is valuable and people's time is valuable. And I think the general public is waking up to the fact that we can't consume all of this. And then where is my life and my attention span if I'm sitting here consuming? Because as Bo Burnham put it, that's what they're trying to monetize is your
Yeah.
time and your attention.
Yeah.
And I think people are waking up to the concept that like I don't want to be plugged into I don't want to become a consuming machine for things, especially if these things are just haphazardly thrown at me and poorly created. What happened to the concept of art and storytelling? We see people in general see through that bullshit very quickly. And so I think there's a collective ask now of Marvel and Disney and Magic and all of these massive entities to just read the fucking room for a second, you know? Um,
That's our F
and
bomb for the show, guys,
yeah,
just so you know.
read the fucking room. Yeah, read the room, damn it. These companies are fighting for attention essentially the same demographic too. Exactly, they are. They're all fighting for attention in the same demographic, and that demographic is older millennials who have money and will literally drink nostalgia through a straw like a milkshake. Like that is what or my generation, at least I'll speak for myself. That's what my generation thrives on is monetization of nostalgia. And that's what Star Wars and Disney and Magic and all of these entities are doing right now because we have expendable income, but we're also becoming highly aware that like wait a second, hold on a second, yeah. You know, I just think that that is where we're at, and I'm glad that they're listening. I'm glad that they addressed it,
Hmm.
and I think at the same time, like, you know, one of my philosophies in life and in art and streaming and content creation is it's process over perfection, right? So like I think we can also at the same time as saying, hey, we don't want this, also say, great, we learned. Hopefully you learned too. And now let's see if that changes and phase 5 and 6 get better. And if it does, great. You know what that's called? Growth. Like, you know, companies like that and entities are allowed to stumble and fall and fail and grow because what the MCU continues to do is create something that is unprecedented, you know?
Hmm.
And they will continue to be in that unprecedented space. And that doesn't mean that everything's going to be perfect or great, and that's okay.
The thing is that I know a lot of casual MCU fans that have given up. Like, I know my
Mhm.
brother is like, yeah, I think they're done. I know some friends from work that think they're done. Also, I just full transparency. I'm in Israel, and it's very different than the culture that I got used to in New York. It's just nobody's on Twitter. Nobody's like very big on geek culture in Israel. So it's a little different. But there is still the discussion about it sometimes, like about the big movies and what happened. And I just had a conversation that about missing the movies from the 90s and early 2000 when I grew up, and a lot of you, I know Steven is my age as well, or give or take. And the movies we grew up on were movies for the theater. Like people went to the movies to see stupid rom-coms that were an hour and a half. And now everything is like 3 hours. And it's like going to the movies is a journey of like 4 or 5 hours of doing all of it and just going.
So says James Cameron in Avatar.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I went to see Mamma Mia with my sister and my mom. The play. So they made a Hebrew version and they translated all the songs. And I just learned yesterday that my mom and my sister didn't even know the story of Mamma Mia. They'd never seen it. And I'm like, how can
Ah,
that be? And like I've seen it. I've seen it in English on stage. I've seen the movie a couple of times. I've seen the Hebrew like yesterday. I'm like, what? So I was surprised. I was surprised from that, but like only just also just in general, I think people are now rediscovering the old movies and stuff like Knife Out and stuff like that are very popular now because we don't get enough movies to just go to the movies. We get a
yeah.
lot of superhero movies and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think people want diversity.
Yeah. People want things that are actual. It's funny. There's I was talking to a friend of mine about Broadway and theater, but this also applies to the movies too. There's actually a middle ground that I think people want as far as content and storytelling goes, which
Okay.
is that on one side, there's the hyper commercialized Broadway musical, Marvel movie, blockbuster thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That clearly is like built to do that thing. It has money thrown into it with famous people. It's quickly put together because they know it will generate money. On the other side of that coin is the hyper low key under the radar movie that is clearly built to get Oscar nominations, that is in select theaters and only certain people see it, and it's very hoity toity, and it's usually filled with drama and tears about something very important that needs to be talked about. And in between that is something like Knives Out, which is like it honors a concept and an old piece of storytelling, like a murder mystery. It has famous people, it's well made, and it's right in between those two extremes. And I think that's the stuff, that's the like movie or theater content, whatever it is, that actually people, the mass amount of people want right now. Whether they're given it is like not up to me to decide, but a lot
I
of movies now are very similar. The classics are such a palate cleanser. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. I feel like a lot of people are getting their content from streaming, from TV. I think it's not TV as we know it, but the streaming services, the small seasons, the very concise start and end to a season without any filler and stuff gives people what they want of content. I think a lot of the quality content is coming as shows right now. I know people are
Mhm.
raving Wednesday, which I really want to see.
Wednesday, White Lotus,
White
very
Lotus,
good.
I heard is really good. My sister
Yeah.
told me I have to see it. I have such a long list that because I'm so busy with work and studying, I'm doing a course in Python programming. I just don't have time to sit down and watch something that I want to focus on. I can put stuff like on YouTube and stuff just to put on in the background, but nothing that I can put my time into to watch and focus on and like be attentive. So I have a list of stuff that I want to watch. The most I can do is like my weekly episode of My Hero Academia, which this season is insane, guys. We are talking about different superheroes, but if you're not following My Hero Academia, I highly recommend. Um,
Yeah. I'm the same way. I'm a person, I'll watch 1 to 2 episodes of the thing that I'm committing to like over dinner. And that's
okay.
really about it. I can't really binge something. I did finish Arcane in a few days, which was really, really a beautiful piece of television. Um yeah, I'm the same way. And ironically, the things that were like on my top 3 TV shows this year sort of did fall into that category of like they're right in between these two extremes.
Yeah.
Um, Heartstopper, The Bear is the best TV show I've seen this entire year.
The
If you have not
Bear?
watched The Bear on Hulu with Jeremy Allen, such a good piece of television, a beautiful metaphor. Oh, so good. But all of that aside, yeah, I think that that's very much high level, just a conversation on the entertainment industry and content as a whole. 8 episode specials are great. Giving me 8 amazing episodes rather than 24. I completely agree, Ronan. I
100%.
completely agree. I want miniseries. 6 to 8. Great. Solid. 6 to 8 at 45 minutes is a perfect formula.
Even 10 to 12, if it really needs those episodes, I think it works. But the
Hmm.
24, we're long gone. Like the 24 episode seasons are long gone. Um and the fact that Grey's Anatomy is still going, guys, I really don't know why. Um and I followed until like season, I don't know, 15 or 16. At least I followed the plot and what's going on. But like now I don't even know anymore. And it's just way too long and way too
Yeah.
soap opera? No, like soap opera ish kind of.
Soap
That's,
opera, yeah.
yeah, but I was trying to use it in a word, but it didn't work. Buzz was saying I really like Grey's, but I don't feel like I can ever catch up. I agree. It's way too much. Sorry.
Yeah.
What was Burner
I was
saying?
gonna say Burner, like I think the thing about the confusion around the video games and whether or not they're a part of the universe is that like to me they aren't because it's a cinematic universe. It is an MCU, a Marvel Cinematic Universe, and cinema therefore encompasses movies and television. That's what I tell people when they ask me. It's like, well, is it a part of it? It's like, well, is it a movie or a piece of television? No. Okay, then great. It's probably not. Like, um, that's my sassy response. I'm sure there's a better way to like word it.
So, what do you think of Daredevil Born Again having 18 episodes?
I think that they want to give people. I think they want to give people that refresh.
Hmm.
I think people are clamoring for Daredevil to come back, and the like him coming back in She-Hulk and No Way Home was just like the biggest piece of fan service because again, when we talk about things that didn't work in the MCU, we can look at the Netflix series. We can look at Jessica Jones, Daredevil, Iron Fist, and the Defenders.
Yes.
Didn't work. And that's okay because it was the first time they were testing this television model. But Daredevil did work. Daredevil was really great. And like all the characters in it, even the Kingpin, who they brought back for Hawkeye, also solid casting. Like, I
Yeah.
think he's an amazing Kingpin.
Yes, he is. But people had so many issues with the way he was brought into Hawkeye. I don't know how much you guys are like knowledgeable about the converse. Oh my God, words today, guys, words. The
Words are hard.
words are so hard. I know what I want to say. It doesn't come out. The controversy, thank you, for of around Kingpin and how much like a character in the comics they made him, or like a caricature of himself they made him in comparison to what he was in Daredevil. People didn't like it. Didn't like that he was able to get hit so much and nothing happened to him. He was blown up and nothing happened to him. He got an arrow. He got hit by an arrow and nothing. And he just shrugged it off. People said it wasn't realistic. I don't know. I've actually have not watched the Netflix Daredevil yet. It's on my list. As you see, there's a long list. Um, and I know people had issues with what he was like in Hawkeye. But other than that, I do agree that I do like the casting.
That's interesting. I like to me that is the point of the Kingpin. Like he
Yeah.
is a mob boss, but he is also an unstoppable force. Like I don't think he's like Rhino level or Juggernaut level for sure. If we wanted to actually put them on a quantitative scale of like who's the biggest giant person who can take a hit, but I think that's like part of the reason why Kingpin is so scary, right? Like,
Yeah.
what about him is terrifying? If he's just a mob boss, I'm not scared of that as a viewer for Hawkeye or Spider Man or or Daredevil, whoever's interacting with this character.
Hmm.
Then it's also, oh shit, he can beat the crap out of them too and take a punch. Like, oh, that's even worse.
Yeah.
Um, but I like that they're keeping him to the New York-based superheroes. I think you clearly kind of have to. Like, he's got to stay in that world. I would not be surprised if they brought Kingpin into Spider-Man in some way, since he's now off doing his own thing.
Yeah.
Iron Fist was very bad.
Dan is saying unstoppable. Tom is behind you rolling his eyes.
But don't encourage him.
But I'm wondering. I heard a lot of things about the comics right now. Is there any corn comic that you follow that you think is doing a good job right now with the content? Specifically in Marvel comics. I know there's a lot of different comics, but Marvel comics specifically.
I am a person who doesn't necessarily keep up with current comic lore. What I do is I tend to, when I see a direction that the MCU is going, what I'll do is sort of gather all the things and buy and read all the things around where I think it's going,
Mm-hmm.
just so I have a point of comparison. Like,
Okay.
all right, because I think you have to honor source material. Now it just so happens that like years ago, my ex gave me Infinity, which is the newer version of Infinity, where we talk about universes collapsing in on itself.
Okay.
And as soon as that was brought up in Spider-Man Far From Home, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, oh god, I was like, we're going here, we're going in this direction. which means we need the Illuminati, which means we need Young Avengers, which means we need Kang, which means we need uh, Sword and Shield, like all these entities. So
Yeah,
I
there's
just
a
noticed
lot.
Tom. Hi, Tom.
Yeah.
Tom says
Uh,
hi, Renegade.
Burner here is recommending the X-Men comics that are going on right now. It's super good. They're saying, and he's loving the run right now. And I know a lot of people love X-Men. A lot of people love different like storylines of X-Men. I just got into comics recently. I've only started reading Visions, which is about Vision creating his own family. Basically, Wanda Vision in reverse. But I only just started. And then also, I've been reading.
That's a great series.
Yeah. And I've
Yeah,
been reading Deadpool.
it's terrifying.
Oh, really? I'm just so surprised, guys. This is not a big spoiler because it's in page 2 or 3 of the comic. But 1 second, I'm gonna get it.
Go get House of X, Power of X. It's a good jumping in point.
I was so
What's
surprised, guys. I was so surprised to go in here and like in page I think 3 or something. Yeah, page 3 or 4. The neighbors come by to say hello and welcome the Visions to the neighborhood. And then there's one panel that the neighbors are talking about if they can hear us from the street because of their superpower. And it says like the husband says, yeah, but can they always hear us? And then there's like general narrative points that are saying, later, near the end of our story, one of the Visions will set George and Nora's house on fire. They will die in the flames. And that's it. And that's what you get. Like just a tidbit of what's going to happen. And I'm like, this is going to be a roller coaster of the, like, I'm just.
It is an absolute roller coaster of a beautiful conversation about humanity and AI and artificial intelligence and emotion and how do we process things both as humans and non-humans. Like it is a fucking beautiful, beautiful journey.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad you're reading that. That's
as you can see, I only get the comics that are full story beginning to end. I don't have the patience for the smaller ones. I am also reading Deadpool Killing Marvel. What's it called? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also reading that one. I didn't connect with that as fast as Visions. Visions is just like 2 pages in, and I'm like, oh, I'm hooked. Deadpool, I think it's interesting. I think the art is great, but I'm still waiting for something to hook me to the story and what's going on. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I will give you an update, guys. But
I only read the books too. Easy to store afterwards. Yeah, the books are the easiest way to do it. That's what I did for Young Avengers when I was like, I want a complete Young Avengers, and there's 2 sort of big things that you can buy. That's like, here you go. Here's everything you need for Young Avengers, and I was like, great.
I really want to get into manga as well, but manga is like black and white. Something about it feels very different than comics that have their art style and stuff. But I'm trying because I know, especially like My Hero Academia, there's a lot more in the manga, and I heard also in Attack on Titan, and I'm curious what's the extra, what's going on there.
Deadpool is good. It's just good no matter where you jump in. Yeah, because Deadpool allowing it to sort of exist outside of the 4th wall means that you can jump in anywhere, and it's going to be hilarious and relevant. And
100%.
I'm the same with manga. Nice.
Yeah, you need your pretty colors over the pretty ink. Me too. I feel the same, but I do want to get into manga. I also always feel like I am not productive when I just sit and read, and I need to allow myself more time to just sit and read something. And even if it's half an hour just with myself in my, I have a small terrace in my apartment. I'm like, I just need to find time to allow myself to sit and read. Right, guys? I hope we are all going to let us. This is our resolution as a community, guys. Everybody in 2023, find at least a little bit of time to just sit and enjoy something. If it's reading, if it's something. I've been enjoying podcasts and audiobooks a lot because I do walks. I try every day to walk at least 7,000 steps, which is about 5 kilometers. And I'm like, even more, it's like 7 kilometers. And I just like to listen to something while I do it. So audiobooks and podcasts. I just got into true crime, which is terrifying. I know we're diving into different topics, but I don't mind. Do you mind if we're segueing away
I'm
from
here.
Marvel? I know. I'm just wondering if you guys mind. We can jump back into Marvel if we have something to say. But I think like there's been so many discussions about Phase 4, and I wanted to talk about it with Steven because I know he follows. I know he has an opinion, and the thing is that I think like we or people who do consume additional content to the MCU, not necessarily just the MCU, we are fans that will give them another chance. That will try if something comes out and it's good, we're gonna go watch it. But I know a lot of people who just gave up on the whole thing and said that they're not gonna see any Marvel anymore.
I will say I just had a conversation about Black Panther yesterday on the way to the hockey game.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a very interesting conversation. So I was like, let's at least. I don't need to talk about No Way Home. I think everybody understands. I fucking love that movie. Like that movie is absolute groundbreaking and amazing. Um, uh, so I was really into where Black Panther was going. I was like, yeah, this is great. We're gonna honor Chadwick. Like, oh man, Namor's such a crazy good villain. He's so canonically important. He's another piece of the Illuminati. We finally get Atlantis.
He's a
Yeah,
mutant.
like
They actually said
he's
he's a
a
mutant.
yeah, he's a mutant, and like, um, and then a super spoiler. If you have not seen Wakanda Forever, I'm just gonna like blast that right here in front of everybody. Super spoiler. If you've not seen Black Panther, go get a cup of water or something. I don't know.
Mute us for 10 seconds.
Mute us for 10 seconds. Angela Bassett did not need to fucking die. The people of Wakanda have suffered enough. They have gone through multiple funerals in this entire cinematic universe, and it is the biggest slap in the face and discount to Chadwick to have put that in that movie. I have never been upset about a character dying in the MCU. I've always been like, yeah, great. Life is not permanent. People need to die. It's a fucking war. Let's go. And I had a almost popcorn flip moment. I was
Really?
like, is she dead?
It didn't affect me like that. I was shocked that they killed her, but I didn't have that negative experience with
It's
it.
it's unnecessary for her character. Unless Angela Bassett said, I'm done, I
Mhm.
would like to leave the MCU. Those are conversations and backdoor things that like I just don't know. But
Oh.
Shuri's character did not need that to get pushed to the direction that she was going to be pushed into. The death of her brother and the burden of taking up the mantle was enough. It was more than enough to do that. And it also is just like, yeah, I as Chadwick came from where my hometown. There is a mural to Chadwick
Oh
in Anderson,
wow.
South Carolina, because he went to TL Hanna High School. So maybe I'm aggressively biased towards this, but like I think like giving him that beautiful funeral and then an hour later into the film being like, guess what? We're gonna do it again. You remember that funeral thing we did? We could do it again. I was like, why? Why are we doing this? Like,
They have made big
so
changes in the script, I know. There was a world where Shiri had a more of a flirtation kind of experience
with
With
Namor.
Namor, and there was more of that going on. I don't know. I think also Angela Bassett did an amazing job. Other than what you're
Oh
saying,
yeah.
she was
Oh yeah.
amazing in every
Beautiful.
scene that she was in. I was surprised with who they brought to see Sherry in her experience with Black Panther. I was surprised
Mm-hmm.
there very much.
Yep. Yep.
I think it was good, but I do I guess I see your point about that about killing her and about that the whole thing. I just never thought about it
Yeah.
like that.
It just narratively was like it just didn't seem necessary. And I like that Riri Williams is like brought into the MCU. I think it's great. I think fans want an Iron Man replacement in that way.
Hmm.
And based on the direction we're going, it's either Riri or it's Iron Lad, which is going to fuel the Kang narrative. Either way, I would have been fine with it. I do think that like when they visit Riri in college to take her to Wakanda, it's literally cut and paste the exact same dialogue, almost verbatim, between Tony Stark and Peter in Civil War. Like, it's
Oh.
literally like, what are you doing here? I can't go. I have homework. How did you find me? What? You're gonna give me money? It's like, it's literally the exact same scene. And I was like, we can't, this is lazy. Like, these people need to be having a different conversation because they're different cultures and different human beings. But here we are with this same concept. Like, so when she literally was like, I've got homework, I was like, come on.
Is
At
there
least her
anything?
intro into the MCU is better than the comics. Her comic introduction was bad. It caused a major uproar. Oh, I don't know her comic
Oh, really?
introduction. I haven't dived into Ironheart yet.
Me neither. I'm just curious if there by the end of Black Panther, did you come out with like, I know that scene didn't agree with you, but by the end of it, did you appreciate it, or did you appreciate parts of it, or did you think that most of it was okay? They did some things that were not necessary. Like, what were your thoughts by the end?
I liked it. I'm glad we got the like balance of two sovereign nations because they are two very important. There's a lot of moving nations in the MCU that we're getting pieces of them,
Mhm.
like Atlantis, Wakanda, the Inhuman society that floats over the fucking world. We're not going to get that, but like that is its own sovereign nation. And I think these things need to be created and honored so that we start to understand the marble earth as more than just what our earth is defined by. Um, but I also will say one of the conversations I had with my friends was you never fight on enemy home turf. Why did they build a boat? You can't swim.
100%.
Like, these are people who live in the water. Why are we on a boat? Like, I was so confused as to like why that was their choice to confront that. Those people was like, we'll build a boat and we'll go sail out in the middle of the fucking ocean and we'll go fight the water people. And it's like, no, this is not it. You have ships, you have planes, you have like literal, like, at least an air army would have been better than a boat.
100%. Yeah, I don't think it was perfect, but I think it was better than the other movies we got this year, because
Yeah.
I feel really sad about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I think it had good moments, but I think it didn't give us what we wanted from it. And I think, for me at least, I felt like I came out of the movie and I wasn't hype about anything. I was like, okay, I saw it. It happened, and what's next? What's gonna happen? So I don't know.
Mm. Yeah, I think people had expectations about Doctor Strange, and I think that's because people were so excited about WandaVision and how well WandaVision did, and it was sort of the follow up to that story.
Hmm.
So there was a lot of expectation behind it. And what we were given was a very fun Sam Raimi pseudo horror roller coaster uh, that was not at all like WandaVision.
Yeah, and they also
I,
took back a lot of what they did with Wanda in WandaVision, which
yes,
hurt a lot of people who did enjoy the show and wanted to see that Wanda.
right. And I think, again, that goes back to continuity, right? We have to be building in a forward direction. So the connecting lines between Wanda to Multiverse of Madness is like, what? Wait, what? Like,
Hmm.
and those are moments where the general audience gets confused and they don't want to engage anymore, right? So Doctor Strange got Disney. Doctor Strange yeah, it did get very Disneyed. I was just happy about the Illuminati scenes. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's the thing. If you slice that cake in the right way, what the best part of Doctor Strange is the Illuminati scene.
yeah,
That is huge. That's a huge piece of where we're going. And the fact that they finally said the word not consortium, what is it when a universe collapses in on itself, it starts with a C. Um that word is
hmm,
extremely important, and uh that's really all we needed. Like we really just needed that. And I think also people struggle with seeing Wanda as a villain, and whether you agree or disagree that she is or isn't a villain, like it's a hard thing to see
Hmm.
that character in that way. The way Wanda got treated was horrible.
I
Exactly. I
agree.
loved Wanda was scary. Um, yeah, and our the MCU's Illuminati is going to have to be different because we're missing key characters. Like if you look at canonically the Illuminati, Reed Richards, Doctor Strange, Professor X, Black Panther, Namor, and
Captain Marvel? Captain
no
America?
Captain America. Yes, like we're missing a lot of those people. So we got to build a different Illuminati here. Beast was on there. That's right. Beast was on there too. Yep. And each person was given an Infinity Stone to protect. But in this universe, the Infinity Stones are irrelevant.
Yeah.
Loki has taught us that the Infinity Stones are paperweights. So,
Which is hilarious. I think
um,
that was one of the
yeah,
best parts. Especially it was hilarious to me because I watched The Good Place a multiple of times. And if you guys don't know, the guy who talks about the stones in Loki is a very funny character in The Good Place. He's the best friend of Jason Mendoza. No, Jason Mendoza is the actor. Never mind. Jason. Um, and I just saw him. Like every time I saw that I saw Loki and we saw him. All I can think about is The Good Place. But
yeah,
okay, so Phase 4 brought with it the separation between shows, movies, and now specials. What do you
mhm.
think of each? For me, I think that they're still learning how to balance like what goes to where, what becomes what what format works best for what content.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's still work to do in that area. There's still stuff that they need to figure out. At least that's for me. I know you have not seen Werewolf by Night, so you only have one special that you can talk about. But overall, what do you think about having all these different content types, and what do you see, like what type of stories do you want to be told in what type of format?
Well, so specials are not new for the MCU, right? Specials have existed as separate pieces, and they were just a lot shorter, right? There was a
Hmm.
lot of like there's a lot of those 10 to 15-minute little things that you can find like connect Captain America, and like there were these weird little offshoots. I think there was one for like Agent Carter or something, like, and they're funny to watch. I always treated those as specials, but like I don't mind them. I think they're nice. I don't, you know, the Guardians one actually gave information that I was like, I think I need to watch this for the next Guardians. I was watching it and I was like, this seems really important for the next movie, but it's wrapped up in a really hilarious holiday special.
They will probably drop those pieces of information also in the main movie just for people who
I
have never
hope
seen the
so.
special. I think that's what they try to do with Doctor Strange with WandaVision. They tried to show us WandaVision again with her journey, but it didn't really work. But
Mhm.
I feel like I really enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy, the holiday special. Even though
Yes,
I
it's
don't celebrate Christmas whatsoever, I still added the Christmas songs to my playlist of driving
yes.
playlist.
If you have not watched it and it's like close to the holiday season, like it's hilarious.
So
I
good.
was cackling. It's so funny and it's so Christmassy. It's perfect. It really is.
And
So
it
if you haven't
also
watched it yet, I highly recommend it.
it's an homage to other Christmas movies and specials, and it
Yes.
has the vibe of Christmas. It's a lot of fun, and it's still the characters that you'd love from Guardians. And I the only thing is that Groot is a little it's a big jump for me. The new Groot.
He's just older. I feel like he's like well, he's in like that. I feel like he is like the Groot we got in the second Guardians. I feel like
Yeah.
that was like middle school, freshman year, high school Groot, who's like
Okay.
lanky and awkward and hasn't grown into his body yet, and he's like really sassy. And I think this Groot is like college football Groot, where he's like grown into his body, but now he's just like a jock, and he's like he's kind of dumb at times. Like
It's funny. I really enjoyed it, guys. If you have not seen it, we both recommend it. I think it's great. And is there any show that Steven, or like, so you've watched everything, but is there any show that you guys have not watched and you were waiting to hear about it, or you just said, okay, I'll watch it later? Um, I'm curious because I know a lot of people. I know people who started Hawkeye and didn't finish. I know people who started Moon Knight and never finished the series and kind of lost it in the middle. Um, I enjoyed also the Christmas vibe in Hawkeye. I have to say, I also enjoyed that very
Yeah.
much.
It was really nice. Like I love that. Yeah, I love the atmosphere of. I mean, it's based on one of the best Hawkeye runs ever with the Matt Fraction
Hmm.
run, but it's like it's also just really. I think it came out last Christmas, right? Like Christmas 2021,
Hmm.
and it's just really it was a really good timing. Like the tree in Rockefeller Center and all the snow, and I was like, yeah, this is cute.
It
This
was
is really
also
cute.
very New York. It like for us who live in New York or
Yes.
lived in New York or live in New York, it really gave me the vibe of I'm walking around in New York City, and this is what I
Hmm.
feel during Christmas time when I live there.
Yes, very much so. Like Hawkeye, Spider Man, Miss Marvel are all
Yes.
very New York films.
Yes, and New Jersey. You
Yeah, and
crossed the board
Jersey.
in Jersey.
Yeah.
I gotta say that Haley Steinfeld, that is playing Kate Bishop, has had a crazy year, guys. I don't know if you follow what she does, but she's Vi from Arcane. She's Kate Bishop. She's Gwen, right? Gwen's like the Spider Gwen. She is. What else has she done lately? She's done everything. Like she's everywhere. Everything. I ask everything I ask myself who is in the cast, I see Haley Steinfeld in it, and I'm like, she's just doing everything right now. Wait, and now I have to go on her IMDb and give you a little rundown of what's going on over here. Okay, yeah, Hawkeye, Arcane, Charlie's Angels. She did Charlie's Angels in 2019. Okay, what's coming up though? Upcoming, yeah, Spider-Man Across the Universe, Avengers: The
Mhm.
Kane Dynasty. It's rumored that
She
she's gonna be
did
part
she
of it.
did Bumblebee.
Right, she did
Dick
Bumblebee.
Dickinson, which is a great show. If you haven't watched Dickinson,
Okay. Guys, she's just been doing everything. And I think maybe because I was a big fan of Arcane, I'm like, oh my god, she's just everywhere right now. She is going strong, guys. And we love it. We love to see it. And Dan, you said you just watched Loki out of all the series. I said that I recommend WandaVision. And Dan just said that he tried and made it through like 3 episodes. I think episode 4 is where it starts to make sense, at least a little bit. So give it another try, because WandaVision is so good. Also,
Yeah.
give Miss Marvel a try, even though I'm not a big fan of the villains and villains, the antagonists in the show.
Yeah.
I am a big fan of what they did with the culture and the people and the cast. The cast is so good. And
Yeah. It's like
yeah, go
I
ahead.
was gonna say, like for Miss Marvel, it's like they didn't trust the canonically, like the canon Miss Marvel story, which
Hmm.
is like, it could have done its own thing, it could have stood alone, but
Okay.
instead we had to like focus it around these like bad people, and I was like, she's just a kid in Jersey, like that's what makes the comic so good, is because she's so every person in her discovery of self and power that like we don't need this, but sure, here we are. And I've already done my rant about her power. We don't need to dive into that. That's a whole other thing.
That was in
They
our last
better
episode.
wrap it up. If they don't wrap it up in Kang and or like the in Ant-Man and Wasp, whatever, Quantum
No,
whatever,
in the Marvels. They will wrap
in
it
the
up in the
Marvels,
Marvels.
I think they're gonna get to it in Quantum, because like that technology is very similar to that world that Kang has built. Like
Okay.
there's a deep dive into the MCU TikTok theories about like if you look at the way that the city that he's built is designed, it very much mirrors Shang-Chi's rings, it mirrors Marvel's bangles, it mirrors all this other technology. And so
Okay.
it's like, and we maybe one day, hopefully, connect to that. That'd be great.
So, do you feel like Phase 5? We both know Phase 5 have a lot has a lot to do, but what do you hope for in Phase 5?
I hope that we need Kang front and
Hmm.
center.
Okay.
Period. We need to know what his agenda is so that we have something to work towards and we have a spine, a narrative spine to wrap everything around.
Okay.
Um, I really hope that because of the casting announcement for Agatha, I really hope we finally get our last two young Avengers in Hulkling and Billy Kaplan.
Hmm.
I think we've already got Billy Kaplan in the Joe Locke casting for all those gay men out there who mourned the option. Yes, um, so I hope we get closer to our Young Avengers narrative. I hope we get closer to the concept of universes collapsing.
Hmm.
And if we are going to Secret Wars, I haven't actually read the Secret Wars line yet, but I need to. That's my hope. I think we just need to we're sort of this wide right now. I just think we need to really center it in. And the only way to do that is to align on a spine of whatever Kang is doing, whatever his intentions are. We got to get on it.
Okay. For the next few movies or next year or so, what are you most excited for?
I think Secret Invasion is really important. We haven't really kind of dived into the Kree Skrull War,
Hmm.
and that's a huge part of the canon. That's a huge reason why Hulkling exists. Again, to go back to Young Avengers, um, uh, Loki season 2, I think is gonna be great. And I want to know what happens with Agatha, and I'm happy that Daredevil's coming back. Guardians is going to be sad. I think
It's gonna be
Guardians is going
sad.
to be very sad because they've already said it. It is a 3-act series. The Guardians will be no longer after this third movie, and
Did you see the
many
trailer?
many people. Yeah, many people have tried to write Rocket's backstory because it's been undefined, and people have tried it many times, and it just never lands. It never works.
Yeah.
So I hope that they can get it right. I hope that we can finally have a Rocket backstory that we all agree on. So we'll see.
Good. What about you guys? What do you highly anticipate in this Phase 5? What are your hopes for it? We would love to hear that.
I love talking. I'm happy to sit and talk about whatever. It's my jam. It really
It's
is.
part of your job at the
It's
moment.
part of my job. So thank you for having me. I've had a wonderful time.
Me
Thank everybody for
too.
being here. I haven't seen some of these names in chat in a while, and it's nice to see. It's nice to see people again.
It's nice to see everybody. I wish you all happy holidays. If you celebrate Hanukkah, happy Hanukkah. It's happening right now. If you're waiting for Christmas,
Yes.
happy Christmas, Merry Christmas. I hope you will listen to the songs from the Guardians of the Galaxy special because they're awesome.
Yes.
Happy Kwanzaa. And just happy holidays to whatever holiday or non-holiday. If it's just the winter solstice, happy winter solstice to
Yeah.
everybody.
Happy whatever it is that you celebrate in this
Exactly.
cold ass fucking time.
Or very summery time if you're in Australia or New Zealand.
Or very summery time. Yep.
And also, we just hope you have a great week. We love you guys, and thank you so much for hanging out and enjoying with us. And we will see you very soon.